What's up, like Nostalgia? Dave here, another podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? Got a good one this week. The new Sabrina Carpenter album, hotly anticipated after the year she's had. Also, two new rap records, Cash Cobain and Luh Tyler. On the movie front, we have Zoë Kravitz's directorial debut, Blink Twice, starring Naomi, Ackie, and Channing Tatum. On the TV front, the return of Pachinko for season 2 on Apple TV+, one of the most underrated shows out right now. So make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know what's good, and let's get into it. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Luh Tyler's debut album, Mr. Skii. Luh Tyler has been slowly building buzz the last 2 years, only now 18 years old, rapper out of Tallahassee, Florida. The hype has certainly been building. Tyler made the XXL freshman list last year, signed to Atlantic Records, really off the success of the breakout viral single Backflippin'. Now a lot has been bestowed on Tyler to be the next Florida rap star. If you think about it, the Florida hotbed of hip hop that we talked about in the mid 2010s haven't really broken a full star in quite some time. It's been a long time since Denzel Curry and Kodak Black and Ski Mask were popping up. And Tyler, I think due to his young age, due to the success, due to the potential we're seeing in the music already, could perhaps be the next Florida star to follow in their footsteps. Overall, I enjoyed Mr. Skii. I think what most stood out to me about this is that the production is surprisingly varied and very consistently engaging throughout. Luh Tyler's strength to me as a rapper is that he's very light on his feet. His flow comes across in an effortless manner, despite the fact that he almost comes across as very softly spoken in the way he raps. He just kind of glides over the beats. There are beats here that make it seem like Tyler could potentially cross over and become a bigger rap star. I look at the song TH2DH, where the beat is super catchy, almost like a Motown vibe, and then again, Tyler's flow just really matches that. The song First Show, the synths kind of come out of nowhere for the first time in the album with that one. I think if there's anything that would hold Tyler back, it would just be that ultimately the lyrics, the rhyme schemes, it's pretty consistently the same in the sense that he's very punchline heavy, rapping about flexing. There's nothing outside the box too much here, but I think that there's just a personality that just kind of comes across from Tyler, and that's the one thing you can't really teach when it comes to music and being a rap star. So I'm certainly interested in continuing to follow his career. I think this is a really solid piece of work, and it's only his second, full length. He's only just now 18 years old. So, and I think with more reps, Tyler could probably jump out and perhaps grow a bit more as an artist. Remains to be seen in that front. I thought track 2, Met Gala, was quite nice. Just the production was just kind of varied. It was pretty cool. Stick to the Code. I love the bass on that, almost like a creakiness to the vibe. Kind of hard to explain, but I that one just really stood out to me. It's I haven't heard something quite like this in a little bit. It definitely was memorable. Young Dude as well. The bass hits alongside the keys. First Show, I mentioned the synths on that, but also I think Tyler's flow, very reminiscent of Babytron. Too Slippery, I love the Bossman D-Lo feature. He was fire, honestly, just really met the song well, sounded great. And then also Stay Down, featuring BLP Kosher and Trapland Pat. I love both of those features. It was just pure flexing and really simple bars, honestly, but I don't know, something about the matter-of-factness of it all made that song really fun. And if you're looking for some evidence of future potential, future growth, I think the dual closer song, Gotta Lose to Win / What You Think Now, Tyler getting a bit more introspective, a bit more lyrical on that, and that's certainly not what he's doing most of the album. But the fact that you hear it at the end, it's perhaps down the line we can expect more from him. So don't want to get ahead of myself, but I am pretty interested in seeing what's next from Luh Tyler. Again, young guy, a long road ahead, we think. But let me know, what did you most think of the debut album, Mr. Skii? What was your favorite song? And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Cash Cobain's debut album, Play Cash Cobain. You haven't been able to talk about the last 2+ years of rap music without talking about Cash Cobain. He has become one of the most in-demand producers, largely in part because he is also the face of one of the hottest, newest rap subgenres. Of course, that would be sexy drill. So, of course, a lot of attention will be coming to his latest release. Thinking about how he got to this point where Cash Cobain, I think, really started getting a lot of attention in the back half of 2022. Rapper, producer, out of the Bronx. And before you know it, he's making music with Pink Panthers and Central C, Don Toliver, of course, producing a song for Drake on For All the Dogs, Calling for You, a song that peaked in the top 10 on the Hot 100, getting Ice Spice feature on his breakout single Fisher earlier this year. Cash Cobain's currently on tour opening up for Ice Spice, the other side of the coin when it comes to the evolution of drill these days in New York. I also think you have to think about how traditional drill music has gone to this point to partially explain how sexy drill has blown up. Cash Cobain's forefathers when it comes to Brooklyn drill in Bronx drill in New York, people like Chef G and 504 and Pop Smoke, of course, those were artists that were not allowed to play in their own city due to assumptions of violence and gang activity and whatnot on the part of the authorities. Cash Cobain has made a point, openly said that his music is not about killing people. His music is about having fun. It's more light. And when this drill genre bubbled up, sexy drill bubbled up as the pandemic was ending, this was more inviting, like a party atmosphere. It's lighter. It's more friendly to women, things like that. Ultimately, I think there's just a lot of appeal for this lighter take. It also kind of combines the sample drill wave as well, and that's really Cash Cobain's style. You have this drill production that's stripped down, the iconic minor key that was so paramount to most drill production, giving you that haunting vibe. That's not present in Cash Cobain's music. That's gone. In a sense, you're almost dabbling with some R&B. The very in vogue Jersey Club is also in the mix here, and just really fun samples, and not just really big high profile samples, but little touches and flourishes, stuff from interviews and freestyles and YouTube things and whatnot. It's engaging, and yet it also, there's a safetiness to the niceness to it. And as the name might suggest, it's also incredibly horny. It's really just about having sex, and Cash Cobain bagging women and whatnot. And that's just more fun party atmosphere to some. Now, this is, of course, definitely the current moment, but I'm not really sure about the longevity of this, full stop. I think just because Cash Cobain, lyrically, it's very light and fun and vibey. And maybe that'll be enough. I'm not really sure. You don't really go to Cash Cobain for lyrics, for storytelling necessarily. I mean, the star of the show with him is the beats. As his DJ tag would suggest, got this beat from Cash, not from YouTube. We go to Cash Cobain's music right now because it's reinventing. It's doing creative things with samples. It's giving you Jersey Club inspired drill without the darkness. There is certainly an appeal to that. And when you listen to a song like Dunk Contest off Cash Cobain's debut album, Play Cash Cobain, where Cash literally raps about all the different women he's had relations with, naming all of them and being specific about what's going on, it is incredibly charming, also pretty explicit. It's fun. The Posse Cut Problem, long song, a lot of high-profile features, Big Sean, Fabulous, Yachty, Lay Banks, etc. But what stands out most about that is that Cash is sampling a bit from Layla's Off the Radar freestyle from YouTube. And that's what actually makes it kind of creative. And I think Cash Cobain is certainly willing to move beyond even the very expansive palette of sexy drill. You listen to a song like Love It, where there's clearly Afro-pop drums all over that song. So I think it's clear that as long as this is a sound people have demand for, and obviously Cash has quite the list of collaborators at this point, he will certainly be in the mix from a producer side of things. I'm not exactly sure the ceiling for him as a rapper. Fisher is a hit, but it's not a massive hit per se. So I'm just curious, to the leg something like this has. On the other hand, Central C, Pink Panthers, Ice Spice give him a lot of credibility in terms of, I think, this moving forward. So in terms of this being an album, I think the beats clearly are the star. That's what's most interesting about it. The album's too long, and I think some of the songs can feel samey just because Cash's vocal performance can be a bit rote at times. But clearly, this is new, it's creative, and it's at the very least interesting. I think I only can listen to so much hardcore sex jams, but now I'm most interested in seeing if sexy drill and this kind of sample heavy lighter style, can this become a more dominant production force in greater rap, right? Like Drake had one Cash Cobain song on his last album. Like, could this ever be the dominant sound of a big rapper? I'm not sure. We're a long way off from that. We'll see. But let me know, what did you think of Cash Cobain's debut album, Play Cash Cobain? What was your favorite song? What are you most interested about him and this whole movement? Let me know. And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Sabrina Carpenter's 7th album, Short and Sweet. This is Sabrina Carpenter's really second album since leaving the Disney Channel mold following 2022's Emails I Can't Send. And unless you've been living under a rock, Sabrina Carpenter has become one of the most ubiquitous and popular faces when it comes to pop music. And before diving into that more, I'm just incredibly struck by what has happened, the past few months with pop music. In a year where we got popular and well-liked albums to varying degrees from very established pop stars, including Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Dua Lipa, Ariana Grande, and even people, further down the spectrum with past success like Camila Cabello, who has driven culture and been at the forefront of pop music. It's been Sabrina Carpenter, Charlie XCX, and Chappell Roan. Nobody saw this coming. It's really remarkable. And of course, I talked about Charlie and Brat when that came out. Love that. Chappell Roan, looking forward to hearing what's next. But Sabrina has been probably the single most commercial and biggest of those three women. I can't help but find it fascinating that the other woman in the Olivia Rodrigo driver's license tea session, that person is now one of the biggest faces of pop. It's really mind-blowing to me. Of course, you want to point to Espresso breaking out in April following Sabrina's Coachella performance where she debuted it, but really this rise from Sabrina Carpenter began a little bit earlier, thanks in large part to who else? Taylor Swift. Sabrina was opening up for Taylor on the Eras tour for, I believe, the Latin American leg, and the custom outros that Sabrina would do for her big hit Nonsense would go viral. And it was really smart on Sabrina's part because, of course, the Taylor Swift fan base was really locked into the differences night to night on the Eras tour. And Sabrina basically made that part of her own performance or part of her own show. And I think was really able to capitalize that with getting a lot more attention on her music. And of course, Nonsense in and of itself had been her biggest hit to date, but not a massive hit. And it is a great song. And now I think it's really kind of belatedly become a really big, streaming song for her. And of course, then Espresso comes out in April. Of course, it's an instant smash, but to me, it's really funny and instructive about why that song works the way it does, because it's inherently silly. It's a song that's immediately memeable. I'm working late because I'm a singer. It's that me espresso. The lines just flow in and into your head and never leave. It's pure earworm. And yet lyrically, it's silly. It is nonsensical, right? Shout out nonsense. It doesn't actually mean anything, but it's really, really fun. The idea that Espresso should have been a Dua Lipa song in terms of sentiment, in terms of vibe, in terms of what Dua is as an artist and what she represents. It's that really has stuck with me in the sense that Sabrina kind of grabbed that in a certain sense. There's definitely some Doja Cat in Espresso in terms of the delivery, in terms of the attitude as well, but the song really works. Obviously, I think that's probably the song of the summer, certainly top 2 and it's not 2 type thing, it's up there. Following that, of course, expectations get raised, a lot of people are paying attention. What happens? Sabrina Carpenter releases her second single in this album cycle, Please, Please, Please. And that song also becomes a massive hit. Espresso's over 1 billion streams on Spotify. Please, Please, Please is well on its way. I think realizing when Please, Please, Please became a hit instantly, there was no build or anything. I was oh, that's just a smash out of the gate. It's wow, we're onto something now. And that's another song where I think the meme quality, the lore, also very present. Sabrina's message, her stardom was really on point right now. You think of the line delivery Sabrina does when she says motherfucker on Please, Please, Please. It's invoking Dolly Parton, but it's very memorable because it's different from the rest of the song. Again, something that sticks with you, the earworm nature of it all. And with the music video leading into her relationship with actor Barry Keoghan, she's kind of establishing and leaning into having things for people to invest in. That's kind of something people have said about Dua recently, in the sense that there's not a lot of lore to lock into if that's something you care about. But if you care about something like that, there's a ton of that with Sabrina. And of course, it, like with the Olivia situation, it's predated this year. Long preamble aside, I think this was one of the most anticipated albums of the year, even if we wouldn't have been saying that at the beginning of 2024. But after those first two singles, a lot of attention was going to be on Short and Sweet. Given all the expectations, all the hype, all the ears ready to listen to this album, Sabrina Carpenter delivers with her 7th album, Short and Sweet. Following 2 massive singles earlier this year, Sabrina delivered with a full-length album, very much sticking to her core strength, delivering light yet catchy pop music. Sabrina, not the best vocalist in the entire world, but very much knows what her singing strengths are and leans into those, and just imbues tons of personality into her music that really makes you, I think, engage with her performance and her delivery. When you work with a absolutely A-list team of producers like Amy Allen, Julia Michaels, Jack Antonoff, and Ian Kirkpatrick, unsurprisingly, the album sounds great and sounds catchy. The next single and first song on the album, Taste, just write it down now, it's going to be a big hit. That much is obvious, but throughout the track list, I think there's a lot of songs to latch onto. I was particularly impressed with this song, Bed Chem. I think more than anything, I'm just impressed with Sabrina Carpenter knowing exactly what her thing is right now and really nailing it, and you can't help but tip your hat. It was just, a year ago, 2 years ago, we were talking about how pop music wasn't minting new stars and it was the same people staying on the charts forever. And yes, those people are still around, but Sabrina is, in a sense, leading the way of like brand new pop star that I think has a long road in the A-list to come. And I heard a recent comparison about Sabrina Carpenter in the sense that she's basically like this decade's Katy Perry in a certain sense. Obviously, they're leagues apart vocally, and they're making very different music relative to their respective eras, but Sabrina's almost like the market correction of that because she is incredibly self-aware, which is kind of the opposite of the Perry situation. I just feel like they're kind of living in similar molds in terms of the type of music they're making, what the music is doing, what it's serving. Into the music itself, a little bit deeper here. As I mentioned, track 1, Taste, it's going to be a big hit because I think the drums, the clap, immediately grab you production-wise, and the stickiness of the chorus is just so paramount. Again, like Sabrina Carpenter's earworm ability is really on one right now. Track 2 is Please, Please, Please. Banger. I really love the obviousness of it, but like the motherfucker line delivery, when I heard that for the first time, I was like, geez, like this is just excellent touch right there. Track 3, Good Graces. I also think this one is quite strong, very high tempo, with some fun string flourishes, and once again, just a dynamite chorus. And I think throughout this too, like Sabrina Carpenter, not like a lyrical mastermind per se, but I think what's cool about her songwriting is that it's kind of in your face. Like she'll say stuff that's a bit frank, maybe a bit crass at times. She's certainly horny as shit on this album, but I think because it's so like in your face, and she's not afraid to say stuff, I think it kind of stands out and sounds better as a result. Sharpest Tool, it's a song that's a bit softer, a bit more of an acoustic rhythm, but then it kind of builds up. But because those lyrics are so direct, I still really engage with it. And Coincidence, showing a bit of variety on this, almost more of a folk song on here. And, later on in the album, you have Slim Pickens, which is basically a country pop song. I wasn't really expecting that much on here because you certainly don't get those vibes from a song like Espresso, that's for sure. I mentioned Bed Chem. The drums are fire on this song, but the Sabrina quirks as a performer, as a writer, are on full display immediately. The delivery, again, standing out. Kind of the way she modulates her voice throughout the run of that song, very memorable, so catchy. And basically, what is this song? This is like a horny Ariana Grande song, in terms of when Ari would do that. And obviously, they're not comparable vocally, but like that's the vibe I'm getting, and that's a good vibe to get. I think the song is great. It's probably my favorite song on the album. I don't know, it's probably not a popular take. I think Taste is really grabbing people right now, but man, I think this is definitely the song I've listened to the most thus far. Dumb and Poetic, again, like I care less for the like more non-melodic fare. That's definitely her strength as a performer, but the writing was still there on a song like Dumb and Poetic, so it still has a lot of value. And I think a song like that, like it really builds to like Sabrina landing the lines, landing those memorable direct lines, and like because the song is kind of constructed around the writing, the fact that it's a bit, of a softer spoken song and like more instrumentally slight doesn't quite stand out as much in a negative sense. Juno is an interesting one for me because I think lyrically a lot to dig into, again, in terms of what she's saying. The drums come back in a welcome way. It has like this fast tempo on like the kind of like bridge section before the chorus, and that part is like super catchy. I love the instrumentation. I don't love the chorus quite as much. I think the song kind of slips away with that. The guitar outro was fun, but like that bridge, like that, like when I hear that, that's like instant earworm to me. And then the song kind of like leans away from it, and I was a bit disappointed, honestly. The second to last song, "Lie to Girls," definitely my least favorite on the album. I think you could have got this one. Just a bit dull compared to the rest of the track list. And then, "Don't Smile" also wasn't like super into it in the beginning, kind of sleepy, but I think verse 2 kind of woke me up at least a little bit. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, short and sweet. Talk about an album that's correctly titled, both her diminutive stature and also the fact that it's only 36 minutes long. This album's a complete success, and I think, not that this was necessarily in doubt given this album, but Sabrina's like in pole position to really like lock in on her career, and she's going to go on an arena tour. We're approaching the point where like she could push for even bigger arenas and bigger shows and higher ticket prices and stuff. And I think it's certainly going to be one of the hottest and most in demand live tickets, this fall once the tour really kicks off. But yeah, I mean, for someone who didn't really have a whole lot of thoughts about Sabrina Carpenter, I think like a lot of like Disney alums, I don't really pay attention to the early music career when they're in the Disney system. It's very similar to the early days of Selena Gomez. So in emails I can't send, like that was also something that kind of like passed me by until I first came across Nonsense. But I think anyone who just got in this year, I mean, the ride is just beginning. It's pretty exciting because, again, we've been wanting like new stars in pop for a while now, and it's pretty cool. Again, she's only 25, so her and Olivia, I think it's pretty fun from a tabloid perspective that they're going to be two of the leaders of Gen Z pop, which is pretty cool. But let me know, what did you think of Sabrina Carpenter, short and sweet? Did you think the album was a big success like me? What was your favorite song? And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Blink Twice, the new psychological thriller film from Zoë Kravitz in her directorial debut. This film stars Naomi, Ackie, and Channing Tatum, and a really loaded ensemble cast featuring Adria Arjona, Ali Shawkat, Christian Slater, Simon Rex, Haley Joel Osment, Gina Davis. Really loaded. And the film is being released by Amazon MGM Studios, so eventually will be living on Amazon Prime, where I'm sure most people end up seeing it. Doesn't look like it's going to have too big of a box office. I really enjoyed Blink Twice. I think for a directorial debut, Zoë Kravitz really nailed it in terms of delivering a psychological thriller film that looks fantastic. Gorgeous cinematography, great production design. The film always holds your attention. And when the movie finally flips and the twist is revealed, it might not surprise you. You got a sense of where it was going, but it still shocks you. It still kind of wows you. And the movie, I think, really capably handles that twist, that turn, ends quite strong as well. Naomi Ackie gives one of her best performances because she really has to kind of twist and show a lot of herself as the character evolves throughout the movie. Channing Tatum, I will tell people what you did here today. He's great in the film as well, really continuing that renaissance that he's been on the last few years. Adria Arjona as well, another performance that really evolves throughout the course of the movie. I think the central premise of the film, where you have Naomi Ackie's Frida and her friend Jess, played by Ali Shawkat, they kind of like link up with Channing Tatum's billionaire character Slater King and effectively get pretty quickly and easily, seemingly, invited to Slater King's, private island that he owns. This like lush, kind of paradise where he has his whole estate, and he's bringing a bunch of friends and people there, and they're just gonna hang out and party and do drugs and chill and have fun. And from the jump that something is going to flip, something is going to turn. The guy is always asking the girls there, are they having fun? And yet, when it finally does flip, I think it's like done really effectively because the movie is filmed in a cool way where there's lots of like quick cuts, like Blink Twice, as the name suggests, a lot of like quick like flash cuts, a lot of close up. So the revelation of the flashbacks, once they're revealed, the revelation of what's been withheld to the character and the audience, once we see that, it's like really shocking. The movie takes a huge turn because for that first like 50 minutes or so, it's a really fun time. Like it's enjoyable. And I think the movie's able to really handle that transition. In terms of the characters changing, I really love what happened with Adria Arjona. In the beginning, I was like, interesting. Was she kind of cast in this like early? Because obviously she's really blown up the last few years with Hitman and of course Andor. I was like, huh, she's kind of like a supporting character here. She's set up as someone who is kind of standoffish to Frida, and maybe just doesn't seem to like enjoy the company of the other girls there who are all vying for Slater King's attention to varying degrees. It's like, oh, she's gonna be like the jealous like rival woman. And then once the reveal happens, Frida and AJR Arjona's character Sarah, like they align. It's like, oh wow, the movie like completely like levels up at that point, and Arjona gets to really show what makes her such a, I think, really captivating talent these days, because she's so expressive, so charismatic. And Ackie as well, being someone who in the beginning, like the character is actually kind of hard to vibe with, because she's someone who's kind of like transfixed on like, an attention attraction to Slater King, despite not being a famous person like him. She seems a bit desperate at times. The twist happens, her desperation, like you actually like I think more directly root for it. In terms of like the other supporting characters, the male characters, I think Christian Slater probably makes the best impression. Simon Rex, Haley Joel Osment, they're both good as well. But Christian Slater, I don't know, he's like his energy, like it's just right, I think, in this movie. But of course, the star on the male set has to be Tatum, who is really swarmy and also gets to play a bit two-faced as the movie flips. Yeah, I think the movie's really giving Tatum a lot of time. And again, the first half of the movie where we're having fun, there's tons of great montage of the whole ensemble, and Tatum's a big part of that. But ultimately, I think a lot of the twists, a lot of the suggestions, a lot of the hints about the twist before it happens, that's all really paid off. The stuff with the snakes, I think everything kind of really works. Only thing I kind of butted heads up against was the CEO developments at the very end of the movie. If you've seen it, you understand. I thought that was like a little far-fetched. Obviously, much of this movie is far-fetched, but I was like, how the hell did that happen? Like, that one was a little off to me. But yeah, I think the movie like really handles being able to be like multiple things in its first half and the second half, and it's a lot of fun, and certainly like an impressive first feature from Zoë Kravitz. I mean, frankly, I think she's probably now a contender for a nomination for Best First Feature, like Indie Spirits and stuff, come to think of it. So I was quite impressed. Does the movie quite have as much like to say on like Eat the Rich as it might be suggesting? Probably not. I don't think it really goes that deep on that, but I wasn't really looking to the movie as like too deep on its class commentary. Of course, like Frida and her friend, not wealthy, normal people, working class people. And then the juxtaposition of what like super rich people do on their private islands where no one can hear anyone scream, right? Like you can connect those dots. The movie doesn't really have a whole lot more to say beyond that, though. I think that was fine. I think the movie is just broadly like really entertaining. It really moves the entire time. It's also quite brisk. It's only like 90 minutes. And while it's a shame that this doesn't look to be doing any big box office, it's kind of being like dumped, like late August, really, it's going to hit on Amazon Prime as an Amazon MGM movie. And I think it's a type of movie that could kind of virally like take off on the platform, similar to how Saltburn was very successful last year despite a modest box office. Now, this is not ideally what we'd want. We'd want the movie to make more money in the beginning, but I do think this will find an audience over time, at least to some degree. I think the Tatum factor will certainly help. Just planting his mug on the still will help sell it and get people to click on it, that's for sure. But also, of note, this movie was originally called Pussy Island. That was the original title that had been talked about for a while. I think they wisely changed that title to something a bit more grass. But going into the movie, knowing the original title, I was like, what could that mean? And then it starts to become pretty apparent if you had that knowledge going in, obviously. But yeah, shout out Blink Twice. I think it's just a really fun, tight thriller film. Certainly enough thought-provoking elements to it, but has loaded with stars, moves well, handles its twists well, handles its ending well. Really all you can ask for. And I think now Zoë Kravitz, as much as I love her as an actor, I'm now invested in her as a filmmaker as well. Looking forward to seeing what she does next. But let me know, what did you think of Blink Twice? What did you most like about it? What surprised you? And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Welcome Back Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Pachinko Season 2, drama series out now on Apple TV+. Pachinko's first season really knocked me out. One of the best shows of 2022, and frankly, one of the biggest Emmy oversights in recent memory. That was in my top 5 2 years ago, eagerly anticipating this show to come back, because Pachinko, simply put, is the best Apple TV Plus series Apple has made, without a doubt. What makes Pachinko so great is its epic scope. This is a multi-generational story about Korean immigrants living in Japan. We have two storylines, one in 1945, the other in 1989. And because you're spending time with characters in their early and later life across multiple generations of this extended family, you just spend so much time with character. The character is so finely drawn. The writing on this show is so strong that it's able to communicate very small, dramatic moments between characters and also color that in with big historical events. In season 1, we got the Great Kanto earthquake, one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen. This year, we moved up into World War II in the early timeline, and we're approaching the Japanese economic crash and the start of the lost decades in the 89 storyline. Certainly a story with a lot of heartbreak and tragedy, but I think the character work on the show is really astounding. Min-ha Kim and Yoo Jun play Sunja, old and young, both great. Lee Min-ho, very charismatic as this Yakuza figure. In the 89 storyline, I like Jin-ha a lot as Solomon. Anna Sawai in a supporting role, looking forward to seeing more from her in season 2. Frankly, they should be promoting the shit out of her presence in this because she's going to win the Emmy for Shogun, as we know. Pachinko does a great job with how it handles language for Western viewers that don't speak Korean or Japanese. Language is so important in the story in terms of, Korean immigrants moving to a foreign land. The simple touch of having blue subtitles mean Japanese and yellow subtitles mean Korean goes such a long way to communicate what characters are feeling and what they're saying based on the words they're actually using. Obviously, that would hit a lot harder to someone who understands both languages, but I think the subtitle choices do a really good job for people like myself who don't speak either language. In the past timeline, we've moved up, 7 years. Season 1 took place in the 30s at that time, but now we're all the way up to 1945 in Osaka with Sunja, so we're getting at the very end of World War II, which I think is pretty curious, pretty interesting, and certainly compelling from what we saw in the first episode where, you see an American propaganda drop. The threat of Osaka being bombed is on everyone's mind. Of course, these are people not participating in the war. They're civilians trying to make ends meet as food becomes scarce and the ability to survive is paramount. There's also some ominous foreshadowing about Sunja's brother-in-law being conscripted into working in the munitions factory in where else? Nagasaki. Of course, if you know anything about what happened in Osaka in 1945 or what happened in Nagasaki, obviously, you have a sense of where it's going. And I think that dread, it's like, I'm just assuming that we're going to watch the bomb get dropped in some manner in Nagasaki, and that'll almost be like this season's earthquake episode. It's obviously going to be dark, but I know this show will nail it. The conclusion of episode 1 for the 45 storyline, where Sunja gets caught at the black market and gets effectively bailed out by the return of Lee Min-ho's Hansu, who of course had, rejected her in a certain sense in season 1, and now we learn that he'd actually been monitoring and watching after her and her children and her family this whole time. The story is kind of circling back around in a compelling way, so who knows where that goes from here. The 89 storyline hasn't progressed 7 years, it's only progressed a few months, and Solomon, Sunja's grandson, of course, is still trying to pick himself back up from the fallout of what happened at the end of season 1, where he basically went against the wishes of his employer and his employer's client and told the old woman not to sell her home to the bank or whatever. And now he's effectively being blackballed by the rest of the financial community, trying to start his own investment fund, and it's clearly getting to him as he's feeling a lack of fulfillment, a lack of acceptance in his own ability as he's getting stymied at every turn, kind of bubbling up in him, exploding at a grocery store baker for being racist to him and his grandmother. This is another storyline that the existential dread is just sitting with me the entire time, because I know that the Japanese economy is about to crash, very soon in this storyline. And when you see Solomon get offered a massive check and his dad basically saying the banks are giving money away, interest is almost nothing, literally the cause of this crash, I just feel bad, and you just hope people are going to get through. We didn't see any of Anna Sawai's Naomi. They were colleagues in season 1. I think they're being set up more as rivals. We'll see how much of a member of the show she is. I don't believe she's a full cast member this time around, so we'll see however much we get of her, I'm sure it'll be great. Also, curiously, noticeably, the 1989 storyline, we only see one of Sanja's sons. We do not see Noah, the older son. We're spending a good amount of time with Noah and his desire to see his dad once again, who's been imprisoned and is struggling to fit in at school and whatnot, and his teacher trying to get him to apply himself. We're seeing all that in the past storyline, so we know stuff will happen. But we also very conspicuously do not see him in the 89 storyline. I'm sure that'll come up. That'll be we'll figure out why in time. I think big picture, Pachinko is one of those series where you could probably make an argument that you'd rather spend time with only one of the timelines. I think the 1945 and last season the 30s stuff is more compelling. We spend more time with the past story. And in a sense, it takes away some of the stakes because, we're seeing old Sanja. We're seeing one of her kids grown up, her grandson in 89. So ultimately we know Sanja's going to get through in a certain sense. When she got arrested at the black market, I didn't really have much fear in anything bad happening to her because I know that she's going to make it through. So whether both timelines are able to really come together and coalesce in a compelling way, I'm not sure if I necessarily need that because I do find both timelines incredibly compelling. I think it's just the core strength of maybe not the structure of the show, but just the writing and conception of the show in the sense that you have, I think, just great character work sprinkled around these larger historical events that will affect these characters as well. Season 2, certainly, in my opinion, is continuing the very strong first season, and I really can't wait to see what's next. Hopefully Apple, now that it has a bit more Emmys juice, will actually rally behind this show and push it for the Emmys because it's certainly justified, certainly worthy. Cynically speaking, maybe they'll see what happened with Shogun at FX and see that get embraced by the Emmys. But hey, maybe we can promote our Asian show now. You wish it wouldn't have to be that crass and calculated, but maybe they'll think that way. I'm not sure. Either way, we want that recognition because more people will watch this show. It's far from the most popular show on Apple, but it certainly deserves more attention. But let me know, what did you think of the beginning of Pachinko Season 2? What are you most looking forward to seeing across the season? And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do for the pod this week. Next week, Labor Day weekend, but still some key things to discuss, notably the return of The Lord of the Rings of Power for Season 2 on Amazon Prime Video, and the new music from La Seraphim and Dochi. We'll see what else comes out, but make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod, see the links below. Get the best of 2024 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know it's good, and I'll see you next week.